Ladies and gentlemen, in the hustle and bustle of life, it's so easy to get distracted. We live in a world where there is noise at every corner. Opinions, judgments, comparisons, and pressures. We are constantly bombarded with the right way to live, the perfect image of success, and the endless noise of what we should be doing. But today, I want to talk to you about something much more important. I want to remind you that you don't need to listen to every voice around you. You don't need to measure your worth by the standards that others have set. The reality is when we focus on the noise, we lose sight of what truly matters. What matters? The love you give, the kindness you spread, the dreams that light up your soul. What matters is your peace of mind, your well-being, your ability to be authentic in a world that often asks you to be something else. In a world filled with constant distractions, the ability to silence external noise is becoming increasingly essential. We live in a time where opinions, judgments, and societal pressures are louder than ever, often drowning out our inner voice. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, we are bombarded with messages about how we should live, what we should achieve, and how we should appear. Everyone around us seems to have an opinion on how we should be living our lives, often ignoring the complexities of our individual journeys. The noise can be deafening, whether it's the expectations of society, the pressure from family, the judgments of peers, or even the bombardment of social media. These voices can cloud our judgment, distort our self-image, and drown out the wisdom we hold inside. Silencing this external noise is not just about turning down the volume of the world around us, but rather about tuning into ourselves. It requires being conscious of the voices we allow to influence us and intentionally distancing ourselves from the ones that don't align with our values or true self. External noise, whether in the form of criticism, comparison, or unsolicited advice, can easily lead us down paths that don't belong to us. We might end up chasing goals that others have set for us or living lives based on someone else's definitions of success. The noise often disguises itself as well-meaning guidance or encouragement, but it can ultimately derail us from our authentic path. One of the most powerful tools in this process is learning to distinguish between what truly matters and what is just noise. It's about recognizing when something or someone is trying to pull us away from our truth. For instance, in today's world, social media has become one of the loudest sources of external noise. With influencers constantly projecting an idealized version of life, it's easy to start measuring our worth against theirs. We see curated images of success, happiness, and achievement, and we begin to think we must mirror those lives to be valuable or successful. But in doing so, we lose sight of our unique journey. Our paths are not meant to be compared to others' highlight reels. Our worth isn't determined by the number of followers we have or the picture-perfect moments we capture for the world to see. To silence the external noise, we must first be willing to step back and evaluate who or what is contributing to it. Are the people in our lives supportive and uplifting, or do they constantly impose their beliefs, opinions, and expectations on us? Are we surrounding ourselves with individuals who genuinely encourage us to grow? Or do we allow toxic voices to dictate our worth and decisions? It takes courage to distance ourselves from those who add to the noise and to prioritize the voices that encourage our growth. It's not about cutting people off entirely, but about creating boundaries that protect our peace and well-being. Another aspect of silencing external noise is recognizing that we don't owe anyone an explanation for the choices we make in our lives. We live in a culture that thrives on questioning and judging others, and this often makes us second guess ourselves. But when we focus on our own truth and learn to trust our instincts, we can let go of the need for validation from others. Trusting ourselves means listening to our inner voice without fear of judgment or rejection. It means being comfortable with our own decisions and accepting that not everyone will understand or approve of our path. It's also important to note that silencing external noise doesn't mean isolating ourselves from the world. We still need to engage with others, but we must be mindful of how much influence we allow them to have on our lives. We must learn to filter the information we consume and be selective about the voices we give power to. Instead of reacting to every piece of advice or criticism, we must reflect and decide what resonates with our core values and aspirations. This creates space for our inner voice to rise above the clutter and for us to act in alignment with what we truly desire. Silencing the external noise is a practice, one that requires patience and consistency. It's not something that happens overnight, but each step we take in tuning out the distractions brings us closer to living a life that is truly our own. It empowers us to make decisions based on what feels right for us, not based on the opinions of others. As we begin to quiet the noise around us, we create room for clarity, focus, and purpose. And in that space, we can finally hear the voice that matters most, our own. In a world that thrives on comparison and competition, focusing on your own journey has become one of the most powerful acts of self-preservation. The pressure to meet societal standards, live up to the expectations of family and friends, or follow the paths laid out by those who came before us can easily make us lose sight of our personal goals, passions, and dreams. It's easy to get caught in the trap of constantly measuring ourselves against others, believing that their success should be our benchmark or their timeline should be ours. But the truth is, no one else's journey is the same as ours. And comparing our progress to theirs only diverts our attention away from the life we are meant to create. When we focus on our own journey, we acknowledge that the path we are walking is uniquely ours. It might not look like anyone else's, and that's okay. In fact, that's the beauty of it. The experiences we go through, the lessons we learn, and the goals we set are all reflections of who we are and where we've come from. The more we invest in our own growth and development, the more we understand that the destination is not nearly as important as the journey itself. The joy, satisfaction, and sense of fulfillment come from the small wins, the personal growth, and the courage to take the next step, no matter how daunting it might seem. Focusing on your own journey also means being kind to yourself, especially when things don't go as planned. The world is quick to judge, to put labels, and to measure success in very specific ways, whether that's through academic achievements, career milestones, or the approval of others. But not everything in life fits neatly into these boxes. Some of the most important moments of our lives are the ones that come unexpectedly when we least expect them. These moments shape who we are and the direction we choose to take. Yet, in the face of societal pressures, we often feel that we have to conform, to follow a prescribed route that was never meant for us. When we stop comparing our journey to others, we can finally begin to appreciate the beauty of our own process. We understand that there will be setbacks, but they don't define us. We learn that failure is not the end of the road, but simply a part of the learning curve. Our journey is an evolving story, constantly shifting and changing as we grow and learn from our experiences. The more we embrace this, the more we give ourselves permission to move at our own pace, to take risks, and to explore new paths without fearing judgment. This kind of freedom allows us to live authentically and without the constant need for approval or validation from outside sources. Another key aspect of focusing on your own journey is learning to set personal goals that are in alignment with your values, not with what others expect of you. It's so easy to be influenced by what society tells us is important, whether that's a prestigious job, a certain lifestyle, or a particular image of success. But true fulfillment comes from within. It comes from pursuing what makes us feel alive, not what others think will bring us happiness. When we focus on goals that are meaningful to us, we find ourselves more committed, more motivated, and more driven. These goals give our lives purpose and direction. They inspire us to work harder, to push through obstacles, and to continue moving forward even when it gets tough. Focusing on our own journey also means developing resilience, learning how to overcome obstacles, and trusting that the path we are on is the right one for us, even when things aren't going according to plan. We all face challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The key is to recognize that these difficulties don't define us. They're just part of the larger story. When we shift our focus away from the external pressures and comparisons, we can view these challenges as opportunities for growth, not as insurmountable obstacles. We learn to trust that even when things seem uncertain, we are exactly where we need to be, moving at our own pace, learning the lessons we are meant to learn. Focusing on your own journey is about accepting that you are exactly where you need to be. It's about letting go of the need to fit into someone else's idea of success and embracing the uniqueness of your own path. When we stop comparing and start focusing on our personal growth, we begin to experience life in its full richness. We become more present, more aware, and more appreciative of the journey we are on. We learn to celebrate our successes, however small, and to be compassionate with ourselves when things don't go as planned. The only person we need to measure ourselves against is the person we were yesterday, and the only competition we need to worry about is the one within ourselves. In a world that constantly demands more from us, it is easy to forget the simple yet profound things that truly matter. We live in a society that often measures success by outward achievements, how much money we make, how many accolades we collect, or how busy we are. These external markers can sometimes overshadow the things that really make life meaningful. When we focus on love, kindness, and our own well-being, we start to reconnect with what makes life truly worth living. These intangible qualities, often overlooked in a world that values material success, are what ground us and remind us of our purpose. Love, in its purest form, is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It is what connects us to others and to ourselves. The love we give, whether it is to family, friends, or even strangers, is what creates a sense of belonging and fulfillment. Love is not something we measure or quantify. It's something that grows through actions, words, and moments of compassion. In a world that often feels disconnected, love has the power to heal, to lift, and to inspire. But too often, we get caught up in the noise of what we should be doing or what we haven't yet accomplished, forgetting that the relationships we nurture and the love we share are the foundation of a meaningful life. Kindness, too, is a force that can transform not just our own lives, but the world around us. In the rush to achieve and succeed, we sometimes lose sight of how small acts of kindness can make the biggest impact. It can be as simple as a smile, a kind word, or an offer to help someone in need. These acts may seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but they have the potential to create ripple effects that can change someone's day, their outlook, or even their life. We often forget that the simplest gestures, those moments of connection and understanding, can be the most powerful tools for building a compassionate and supportive world. And then there is the matter of our own well-being. We are so focused on achieving success, meeting deadlines, and fulfilling the expectations of others that we often neglect the most important person in our lives, ourselves. Well-being is not just about physical health. It encompasses mental, emotional, and spiritual health as well. We cannot give our best to others if we are not taking care of ourselves. But this often means making difficult choices, prioritizing rest when we're tired, taking time to reflect, and saying no to things that drain our energy or violate our values. Focusing on our well-being allows us to be the best version of ourselves, not just for others, but for our own peace of mind and happiness. The beauty of focusing on love, kindness, and well-being is that they are not things we have to chase after. They are already within us. In a world that often looks outside for validation, success, and worth, these qualities remind us that the answers to life's biggest questions don't always lie in external circumstances, but in how we choose to live, treat others, and care for ourselves. When we make these values the center of our lives, we begin to experience a deeper sense of fulfillment, regardless of the external measures of success that might be fleeting or superficial. The challenge, however, is that we live in a world that often tells us that these things are secondary to achievement and material success. We are told that love, kindness, and well-being are luxuries we cannot afford when we are too busy climbing the ladder of success. But this narrative is flawed. Without love, what do we have? Without kindness, what impact do we make? Without well-being, how can we sustain any of our accomplishments? These are the things that give our lives meaning and joy, yet they are often pushed aside in favor of the next task or the next goal. But by refocusing on what truly matters, on love, kindness, and our well-being, we give ourselves permission to slow down and appreciate the things that make life truly rich. When we allow ourselves to focus on these values, we start to see the world differently. We begin to understand that success is not measured by what we accumulate, but by how we make others feel, how we impact the lives of those around us, and how we nurture our own growth. The more we center our lives around love, kindness, and well-being, the more we are able to create positive change, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of others as well. And this, in the end, is what truly matter. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with standards of beauty, success, and behavior that are not our own. These external pressures shape how we see ourselves and how we think we should present ourselves to the world. We are often told that in order to be valued or to succeed, we must conform to a specific image or meet certain expectations. But the reality is that the only image we should be concerned with is our own, and the only expectations we should strive to meet are those we set for ourselves. Embracing our authentic selves means rejecting the noise of comparison and judgment and focusing on living a life that is true to who we are. Living authentically requires courage. It means letting go of the fear of rejection or judgment and being unapologetically ourselves. In a world that often celebrates conformity, standing out can feel like a risk. We are told to fit into boxes, to look a certain way, act a certain way, and follow a particular path to success. But when we live according to someone else's definition of success, we lose sight of our own desires, values, and passions. True fulfillment comes not from meeting others' expectations, but from aligning our lives with our own purpose and desires. We are often influenced by the images we see on social media, where people present idealized versions of their lives, often leaving out the struggles and imperfections. It's easy to look at these curated versions of success and think that we're falling short, but the truth is, social media can be one of the loudest sources of noise, telling us that we are not enough unless we continuously look a certain way, achieve a specific goal, or live up to a particular standard. This constant comparison can cause us to lose our sense of self as we start to measure our worth against the highlight reels of others' lives. Embracing our authentic selves means understanding that there is no one-size-fits-all path to happiness or success. Our lives are uniquely ours, and it is okay if our journey looks different from others. We don't have to follow the same timeline or make the same choices to be valid or successful. The pressure to conform can be overwhelming, but when we focus on being true to ourselves, we realize that our individuality is something to be celebrated, not hidden. The things that make us different are the very things that make us special and worthy. To live authentically, we must also learn to let go of the need for external validation. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking approval from others, whether that's from our family, friends, colleagues, or society at large. We want to feel seen, appreciated, and valued, but this desire can sometimes lead us to mold ourselves into something we are not. We may start to make decisions based on what others will think or what will make us seem more successful in the eyes of the world. But when we let go of this need for validation, we free ourselves to make choices that are in line with our true desires and values. Living authentically also requires self-acceptance. It means embracing our flaws, our mistakes, and our imperfections, and recognizing that these are all part of who we are. We often hold ourselves to unrealistic standards, trying to be perfect or to meet the expectations set by others. But perfection is an illusion. Everyone has their own struggles, challenges, and setbacks, and none of us are exempt from the messiness of life. When we accept ourselves as we are, we can stop trying to fit into someone else's mold and start living in a way that feels right for us. This journey of authenticity is not always easy. It takes time, reflection, and a willingness to let go of the expectations others have placed on us. But it is one of the most empowering things we can do for ourselves. When we live authentically, we give ourselves permission to follow our own path, to make mistakes, to grow, and to evolve in ways that are true to our unique selves. We stop wasting energy trying to please others and instead focus on cultivating a life that reflects our own values, passions, and dreams. Embracing our authentic selves means rejecting the noise of comparison, judgment, and external pressure. It means listening to our own inner voice and trusting our instincts. The world will always have opinions, but it is up to us to decide which ones we allow to shape our lives. When we focus on being true to ourselves, we can live a life of purpose, fulfillment, and peace, knowing that we are exactly who we are meant to be. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, be more, and achieve more, it's easy to forget that our happiness and success are not determined by the validation of others. We often look outside ourselves for the reassurance that we're on the right track, that we are worthy of love, respect, and success. This external validation, however, can be fleeting. The approval we receive from others is often temporary, and it can leave us feeling empty if we rely on it too heavily. True happiness and success come from within, and it is up to us to define them for ourselves. Our worth should not be based on the opinions of others, nor should we let external achievements dictate how we feel about ourselves. This is one of the greatest forms of self-liberation, recognizing that we do not need to meet anyone else's standards in order to be valuable or worthy. The constant pursuit of validation can lead us to feel lost as we begin to mold ourselves into versions of who we think others want us to be. But when we stop seeking validation from the outside world, we create space to cultivate our own sense of purpose, self-worth, and fulfillment. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of needing external validation. We live in a society where we're constantly surrounded by messages telling us what success looks like, whether that's a particular career, the number of followers on social media, or a specific lifestyle. These benchmarks become so ingrained in our minds that we start measuring our own success against them. We begin to think that if we don't meet these societal standards, we are somehow lacking. But this mindset can be damaging as it leads us to chase external markers of success rather than seeking out the things that truly bring us joy and fulfillment. The truth is that no one else can define what success means for us. Success isn't always about financial wealth or social status. It's about living a life that feels authentic and meaningful. When we focus on our own values, desires, and passions, we start to realize that success is something deeply personal. It's about finding peace, purpose, and joy in the journey, not simply reaching an end goal. We are the only ones who can truly determine what success looks like for us, and it is important to recognize that success doesn't always fit into a conventional mold. This shift in perspective requires a great deal of self-awareness and introspection. It involves asking ourselves what truly makes us happy, what we want out of life, and what kind of person we wish to become. When we start making decisions based on our own values and not on what others expect of us, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of fulfillment. We stop comparing our lives to others and start creating a life that is uniquely ours. Learning to trust ourselves and our own judgment is also key to embracing a life free from the need for external validation. It's about developing the confidence to make decisions that feel right for us, even if they are different from what others might expect. When we trust ourselves, we understand that we are capable of navigating life's challenges and making choices that align with our authentic selves. The more we trust our instincts, the more we begin to feel empowered in our decisions, regardless of whether they align with the expectations of those around us. It's also important to remember that not everyone will understand or approve of our choices, and that's okay. We cannot live our lives to please everyone. The need for approval from others can make us feel like we're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid of making decisions that might upset people. But by letting go of this fear, we can start to live more freely. We are all individuals with different experiences, perspectives, and dreams. Not everyone will be on the same path as us, and that's perfectly fine. Our lives are ours to live, and we have the right to make choices that are in alignment with our own truth, even if they don't make sense to others. When we focus on our own sense of fulfillment and success, we become less concerned with how others perceive us. We realize that the only opinion that truly matters is our own. We stop measuring ourselves against an external standard and start measuring ourselves based on our growth, our happiness, and our ability to live authentically. This is the foundation of self-confidence, knowing that we are worthy regardless of external opinions or societal expectations. The pursuit of external validation can keep us stuck in a cycle of seeking approval, which ultimately leaves us feeling unfulfilled. When we shift our focus inward and begin defining success on our own terms, we set ourselves free. We learn to embrace our own unique path, trusting that it will lead us to where we are meant to be without the need for external validation or approval. In life, we are often conditioned to believe that success comes from constant striving, always pushing ourselves forward, and never taking a moment to breathe. We live in a culture that celebrates busyness, where productivity is seen as the ultimate measure of worth. But the truth is, constantly chasing after the next goal without ever pausing to reflect can lead to burnout, exhaustion, and a lack of fulfillment. Taking a step back and allowing ourselves to simply be, to rest, reflect, and recharge is just as important, if not more so, than the relentless pursuit of external achievements. When we take the time to focus on our inner lives and our mental and emotional well-being, we gain the clarity and strength needed to move forward with purpose. This doesn't mean that we stop working toward our goals or abandon our ambition. It means that we recognize the importance of balance and allow ourselves the time to recharge so we can continue working effectively and passionately in the long run. Constant hustle without rest creates an unsustainable pace, leaving us feeling drained and disconnected from our true selves. Rest, on the other hand, is essential for renewing our energy, fostering creativity, and enhancing our ability to focus when we do return to our work. Focusing on our well-being is not a luxury, it is a necessity. When we neglect our physical, emotional, and mental health in favor of achieving more, we end up sacrificing the very things that give our lives meaning and purpose. Well-being is the foundation on which all other aspects of our lives are built. Without it, everything else becomes harder to sustain. Our productivity declines, our relationships suffer, and our happiness takes a back seat. But when we prioritize our well-being, whether that means taking time to meditate, exercise, or simply relax, we create a strong, resilient foundation that allows us to pursue our goals with greater ease and joy. Well-being is also about self-compassion. We live in a world that often emphasizes perfectionism, where we are told that we must constantly be improving, achieving, and outperforming others. This constant pressure to be better can lead to feelings of inadequacy, guilt, and stress. However, true well-being comes from accepting ourselves as we are, flaws, imperfections, and all. It means recognizing that we don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. When we learn to treat ourselves with kindness and patience, we create a healthier and more positive environment within ourselves, which allows us to navigate life's challenges with a clearer, calmer mind. Rest and reflection are powerful tools that allow us to focus on what truly matters. In the midst of our busy lives, it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind, responding to external demands and constantly striving for external markers of success. But if we never take the time to pause and reflect, we risk losing sight of our deeper desires and values. Reflection allows us to check in with ourselves, assess where we are, and make adjustments if necessary. It gives us the space to reconnect with our true purpose and realign ourselves with our goals, ensuring that we are moving forward with intention, not just momentum. Taking time to focus on our well-being also helps us build resilience. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's not always easy to stay positive or motivated in the face of challenges. However, when we prioritize our well-being, we develop the emotional strength needed to handle adversity. By taking care of ourselves, we increase our ability to adapt to difficult situations, bounce back from setbacks, and stay grounded in the midst of chaos. This inner strength is invaluable as it allows us to maintain a sense of peace and clarity even in the most challenging times. It is also important to recognize that well-being is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Just as we need to nourish our bodies with food and rest, we also need to nourish our minds and spirit. We need to make time for activities that bring us joy and fulfillment, whether that's spending time with loved ones, pursuing creative hobbies, or simply being in nature. These moments of joy and relaxation help us stay connected to our authentic selves and remind us of the things that matter most. When we prioritize our well-being, we don't just become more effective in our work and personal lives, we also become more compassionate and empathetic toward others. We are better able to offer support, kindness, and understanding because we have first taken the time to care for ourselves. This creates a positive ripple effect, fostering deeper connections and building a stronger, more supportive community. By focusing on our well-being, we allow ourselves the time and space to grow, evolve, and pursue our goals with purpose and clarity. It is through this balance of effort and rest that we create lives that are not only successful, but also meaningful and fulfilling.